Hari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Janitai Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yata Padakamalan Shri Gurun Vaishnava vitamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagat Pate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Namami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarobhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki Jai Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Hare Krishna. So good morning again, everyone. Before I begin, seek the blessings and permission of all of you, in particular His Holiness Krishna Kshetra Maharaj. Thank you, Maharaj, for being here. His Holiness Sachinandan Maharaj, His Grace Padahari Prabhu, Her Grace Mother Kosharupa, and all of you who are actually my inspirations. And I come to the Bhakti retreat mainly to get nourished myself, and the opportunity to do some service is just kind of incidental for me. So thank you for giving me the opportunity. So this year I was thinking every year there's always some anxiety, like, oh no, what am I going to say? What am I going to speak about? Oh yes? Is there anyone in the audience who would like a translation into German? Ich spreche keine Deutsch. Nein. Okay. All right. So yes, this is the topic that I picked for this year. I hope it will be stimulating for all of us. And any topic which actually takes us into the Bhagavatam is very, very glorious. Spending time with the Bhagavatam is like spending time they're eternal moments. They always stay with you. I feel like in my life there were so many things I did, even if I'm honest, even in spiritual life, which I was like, I don't know, like, is this really worth it? Like, where is this leading? So even sometimes in spiritual life, I was doing activities which I thought like I wasn't sure about the benefit of it. But I have to say, over the years, I've realized that of all the things, every moment spent with the Bhagavatam undoubtedly is time well spent. So we do have a shortage of time, as you all know. I was actually telling the devotees at the airport yesterday of something that happened in Vrindavan last year. In the middle of the night, we were out on Brajamandal Parikrama, and in the middle of the night, we kind of hear a massive shouting from the tent next to us. But you know, after Brajamandal Parikrama, you're so tired that you kind of shut everything out and just go back to sleep. So we went back to sleep. And in the morning, we asked what happened, and they said a snake was in our tent, this big. They said it was a 3-meter snake. I don't know if they were lying or not, but fear tends to expand the vision. But they said there was a snake in the tent, and I was like, oh my God, like I can deal with lots of things, but I can't deal with snakes, you know? Anyway, the great thing about Brajamandal Parikrama is you keep moving every night. I mean, you're happy to move to a different forest. So we moved that next night, and it was very amazing. The very next night, the very next afternoon, we're in the next place, and I was drying my gamsha at the back of the tent, and under the midday sun, sure enough, I saw a massive snake skin. And I was like, a snake skin means a snake. And I was like, oh my God, this snake's following me, you know? And it was incredible how Braj teaches you. The very next day, so this was like 3 days in a row. The very next day we were walking through one village, Braj, and then these boys came up with a basket, and they were like, Darshan, Darshan. So like, yeah, see, Gopalji or something. And then I opened the lid, and voom, a snake came out. And I was like, first I heard about the snake, then I saw the effects of the snake, then I saw the snake. What is this snake, you know? And as we know in our Vedic culture, the snake represents time, Kala Sarpa. I was realizing time catches up on us. So it's funny, sometimes they say we wait till we get sick to start exercising. Or we wait till there's an exam or a deadline before we start studying. Or we wait till we get lung cancer before we stop smoking. And sometimes we wait for something to go wrong in our life before we get serious about Krishna consciousness. But time is going, and therefore to really try to connect with the Bhagavatam is time well spent. So that's what we'll try to do in these days. And for those of you, how many of you are here last year? Okay, good. So last year, if you remember, we talked about the triggers of transformation. Usually after our class, the very next day we do a recap and hardly anyone knows. So I'm not sure how much you'll remember. Does anyone remember any of the triggers from last year that trigger transformation in the heart of a devotee? You can just shout out. Inspiration? Yes, inspiration. Instruction? Increment? Oh, wow, you guys are good. Intrigue? Instruction? Yep, that's covered in that. I think you got most of them, actually, yeah. We talked last year, if you remember, about 7 triggers of transformation. We looked at the Bhagavatam, and we talked about transformation by instruction. Actually, sorry, can I have this here? Can I have this here? That would be good. Sorry, I know you did offer me that. And then we talked about the sages of Naimisharanya who heard from Sutta Goswami, and we heard about their qualification to hear. And how simply, if we're attentive in the Bhagavatam class, we can absorb so much that Krishna is trying to teach us about life. Then we talked about transformation by issue. Here we talked about Chitraketu, who had a roller coaster life, so many ups and downs, yet all of those issues brought him to an incredible understanding. And then we talked about transformation by impossibility, because there we talked about Kunti Maharani, who literally went through everything, went to the edge and back in her life, literally. And in her prayers, she really shows that detachment from the world, that one becomes transformed when they realize there's no opportunity here, it just doesn't work. Of course, she had positive attraction as well, but definitely she saw the impossibility of material life. And then we talked about transformation by interaction. There we talked about Narada, who is the original family breaker, because he taught the sons of Daksha and inspired them to circumvent so many worldly responsibilities and just dedicate themselves. And that was very beautiful. And then we talked about transformation by increment, about Mrigarari the hunter, who was expertly guided by Narad to upgrade his devotion in an incremental way. And then we talked about transformation by intensity. If you really want to transform, then just look at the story of Dhruva. Dhruva was super intense, and his intensity was getting more and more intense. So he maintained that intensity, and it led to a direct darshan of the Supreme Lord. And then if all else fails, we talked about transformation by intrigue. That if we don't manage to do it, and if we don't muster up the determination, then we can also pray to Krishna that just trick me into surrendering. And this is exactly what the Lord did when he came as Vamandev, and he tricked Bali into surrendering everything. And so please meditate on these. And remember, we looked at the Bhagavatam and we said that usually it's not just one of these, but it's an interaction of many of these that then bring about a real transformation in the life of a devotee. But I was looking at all of this and I thought, maybe there's one more. Maybe there's one more. And maybe this year I should just focus on the 8th one. Beyond instruction, issue, impossibility, increment, all of these things. This year I thought we could talk about transformation by introduction. Because what we find in the Bhagavatam is that Krishna expertly introduces Uddhava to another world, a world that he's never conceived of. The first thing that Krishna wants him to do is he wants to introduce Uddhava to Brajabhumi. Brajabhumi is a very, very special place, a spiritual world. One of Prabhupada's God brothers, he writes, it's a spiritual world that most people have never conceived of, where God loves his devotee as much as they love him, where God runs after his devotees as much as they run after him, and where God needs his devotees as much as they need him. So Krishna introduces Uddhava to Brajabhumi, and in Brajabhumi, Uddhava is introduced to the Brajabasis. And the Brajabasis are individuals who embody a type of devotion that he's never seen before. And there in Brajabhumi, in the association of the Brajabasis, Uddhava is introduced to Brajalila. The pastimes of the Lord are vast, but the pastimes of the Lord in Vrindavan, they are very, very sweet, madhurya. And there, amongst the pastimes, Uddhava is introduced to the Brajagopis. The Brajagopis are the exemplars of devotion, which is on another level of purity and intensity. And there, after meeting the Brajagopis, Uddhava realizes Krishna wanted to introduce me to Braja Bhakti. So these are the introductions we need in our life. We need to be introduced to Braja Bhumi, to the Brajabasis, to Braja Leela, to the Braja Gopis, and ultimately to Braja Bhakti, because this satisfies the heart like nothing else. And so this is transformation by introduction. But you know, the amazing thing is that Krishna introduced Uddhava to all these things, but actually Krishna introduces all of us to these things, because Krishna svadham upagate dharma jnana dibisaha kalau nasta drishamesha purarnarko dhunodita. Krishna left this world, but Krishna left something behind. Krishna left, but he left something behind. And what did he leave behind? He left behind the Bhagavatam. And the Bhagavatam introduces you to Braja Bhumi, Brajabasis, Braja Leela, Braja Gopis, and Braja Bhakti. And if one exposes themselves, just as Uddhava was exposed to these things, then definitely one's heart will be transformed. Therefore we say, Nasta prayeshva bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya. I like this verse very much, because this verse actually takes all the pressure off in your spiritual life. Because sometimes we think, I have to become, how will I attain? This verse tells us, Nitya Siddha Krishna Prem Sadhya Kabunoi. Relax. You already have it. All you have to do, abhadrani, all you have to do is just let it all disappear away by Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. And if you do that, then it's already there. So spiritual life is like, in one sense, it's effortless. In the beginning, there has to be intensity, but actually it becomes just effortless because it's already there. You already know this and you already have the connection. And so it's very beautiful when you see the advanced pure devotees, just the way they move in the world. It's like effortless. Like sometimes we feel like I need to force it, like I need to force Krishna consciousness. But when you see the great Vaishnavas, it's just like the way they move, the way they walk. It's just like effortless. I love watching these videos of Srila Prabhupada. He's just, even when he's not saying anything, just the way he moves, just the way he's like completely like in the world but not of it, just how he's completely absorbed in transcendence. It's actually just effortless. So we're going to spend a bit of time talking about Uddhava and his introduction to Braj, and hopefully that will also trigger something within all of us. Does that sound okay? Okay, wonderful. All right, so let us begin today. We're going to go through a few stages of Uddhava's life. We're going to start by talking about Uddhava's position. Why is he such an exemplar of devotion? Why is his life so glorious? And what is actually his position? It's important before you discuss any person and what they did in their life to know their position. Therefore, even for example, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, before Kaviraj Goswami even talks about any pastimes, he just spends 12 chapters just talking about Mahaprabhu's position. So we're going to talk about Uddhava's position, why is he so great? And then we're going to talk about Uddhava's transformation. What happens to him? What happens at a certain point in his journey? And then we're going to talk about Uddhava's aspiration. After he undergoes that transformation, what does he instill within his heart as his life's aspiration? And then we're going to talk about Uddhava's learnings. And what was the final teaching that Krishna gave to him? After Uddhava had already transformed, after Uddhava had already embodied the highest aspiration, why did Krishna, right at the nth hour, just before he was leaving the world, decide to stop and instruct him again? Surely Krishna already told him everything. What need was there for further learnings? So then we'll discuss Krishna's final teaching, known as the Uddhava Gita. So today let us begin by talking about Uddhava's position. And in order to take us into this discussion, we'll read this verse from Bhagavatam. So if you can repeat after me. Samuhurtam abhutushnim Krishna grishudaya brisham Divrena bhakti yogena Nimagna sadhu nirvrita Samuhurtam abhutushnim Krishna grishudaya brisham Divrena bhakti yogena Nimagna sadhu nivrita Samuhurtam abhutushnim Krishna grishudaya brisham Divrena bhakti yogena Nimagna sadhu nivrita. If anyone would like to repeat. Ladies. Thank you so much. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Shri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. For a moment he remained dead silent, and his body did not move. He became absorbed in the nectar of remembering the Lord's lotus feet in devotional ecstasy, and he appeared to be going increasingly deeper into that ecstasy. Purport. Actually, maybe I just give the context to it. So, Uddhava is described in different parts of the Bhagavatam, most specifically the 3rd, 10th, and 11th cantos of the Bhagavatam. And the first time that we really encounter Uddhava in the Bhagavatam is here, in the beginning of the 3rd canto. The context is that Vidura, after trying to give Dhritarashtra much good instruction, finally was insulted. And he wasn't so affected by that personally, but he realized this is Krishna's sign to me. This is Krishna's indication that I should leave the palace. So Vidura, at a certain point, left the palace and he went on pilgrimage. And as he went on pilgrimage, he heard the news that the Kurukshetra battle had occurred and that all the Kauravas had died and Dhritarashtra had lost everyone. And therefore Vidura felt bad actually for his brother. So on his pilgrimage, he was thinking about going back to Hastinapur, but before that, he arrived at the Yamuna. And at the Yamuna, he chanced upon the great devotee Uddhava. Uddhava was just actually with Krishna. He was just with the Yadus. And Krishna had actually just left the world. So the scene now at the beginning of the third canto of the Bhagavatam is that Uddhava and Vidura meet at the Yamuna. And Krishna has just left the world. Vidura then asks Uddhava some questions. Of course, when two devotees get together, then what do they talk about? Football. No. They talk about Krishna. So naturally, the first question when Vidura saw Uddhava is, he asked him about Krishna. He asked him where Krishna is. He asked about Krishna's pastimes. He asked about all the associates of Krishna. And as soon as Uddhavji heard the name Krishna, it said that Uddhava went into ecstasy. He went into a trance. It was enough, just Krishna, that was it. Here the verse says, Sa Muhurtam. In the translation, Srila Prabhupada says, a moment. He went into ecstasy for a moment. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in his commentary says Muhurta means 48 minutes. In other words, he says as soon as Uddhava just heard the word Krishna, what did Krishna do? Krishna. Immediately he was stunned. And for 48 minutes, he couldn't do anything. Imagine that in a Bhagavatam class. You ask someone a question and for 48 minutes, it's like, okay, time for breakfast, you know. It's amazing. Uddhava just went into ecstasy. So clearly this verse is showing us that Uddhava had some special connection with Krishna. So this is what Srila Prabhupada writes. On the inquiry by Vidura about Krishna, Uddhava appeared to be awakened from slumber. He appeared to regret that he had forgotten the lotus feet of the Lord. Thus he again remembered the lotus feet of the Lord and remembered all his transcendental loving service unto him. And by doing so, he felt the same ecstasy that he used to feel in the presence of the Lord. Because the Lord is absolute, there is no difference between his remembrance and his personal presence. Thus, Uddhava remained completely silent for a moment, 48 minutes. But then he appeared to be going deeper and deeper into ecstasy. Feelings of ecstasy are displayed by highly advanced devotees of the Lord. There are 8 kinds of transcendental changes in the body: tears, shivering of the body, perspiration, restlessness, throbbing, choking of the throat, etc. And all were manifested by Uddhava in the presence of Vidura. Shri Uddhav Ji ki. So clearly this verse is telling us that Uddhava is in a very special position. Who is Uddhava? Uddhava is Krishna's cousin. Just like Arjun was Krishna's cousin because Krishna's father Vasudeva and Arjun's mother Kunti were brother and sister. So in the same way, Vasudeva had a brother named Devabhag, and Devabhag's son was Uddhava. And therefore Krishna and Uddhava were cousins. Uddhava was born in Mathura, raised in Mathura. And when Krishna came to Mathura from Vrindavan, then the first person he wanted to associate with was Uddhava. Uddhava was around the same age as Krishna. And not just that, Uddhava looked the same as Krishna. In fact, it said that Uddhava also wore the same things that Krishna wore, because Uddhava used to take the remnants of Krishna's clothes and garlands and other things and adorn his body with that. And therefore, in so many ways, Uddhava and Krishna were kind of inseparable. And Uddhava was also greatly learned. It's described that he was one of the foremost disciples of Brihaspati, incredibly learned. The Bhagavatam tells us he was a Jnani Bhakta, a devotee endowed with a superlative level of knowledge. And Uddhava he loved Krishna. Definitely, he loved Krishna. In fact, the Nectar of Devotion says that one day Uddhava, he was walking and he saw a lady and he became attracted. And immediately he became completely bewildered and confused because he said, how could I be attracted to a lady? I'm only attracted to Krishna. And after considering for some time, he realized there can only be one explanation. She must be Krishna. Imagine that. That's like amazing. He said, she must be Krishna. It must be Krishna in disguise. And the Nectar of Devotion says, indeed, it was Krishna in disguise. So that's amazing. Imagine your love is so strong that you're just convinced, there's no way I could be attracted. It's not possible. I just can't be attracted to anything else. That was Uddhava. So Uddhava is an illustrious character. Uddhava is also illustrious in the Leela of Krishna because he's the one that connects Vrindavan, Mathura, and Dwarka. Uddhava is like the thread between all three of those places. Generally, what you'll find is that individuals in one of those places don't have access to the other place. But by Krishna's mercy, Uddhava got the full darshan of everywhere that Krishna touched people's hearts. And therefore, Uddhava is very, very special. And today I thought we could just look at why and how Uddhavji is described as being so special. And for that, we turn to another book. We turn to the Brihad Bhagavatamrita. And here, in the first section of the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, it said that the Brihad Bhagavatamrita is in two sections, the Purva and the Uttara. The Purva means the preliminary and the Uttara means the secondary. So there are two basic stories that are told in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita. And the first one of those stories is important for us today because it teaches us how and why Uddhava is so exalted. What is the Brihad Bhagavatamrita? I think many of you are familiar, but here you see the picture of Parikshit and Sukadev Goswami. So at a certain point, Parikshit knew, my time is coming. He didn't need to see a snake 3 days in a row. He realized, my time is coming. He got the curse and he realized. Therefore, the Bhagavatam tells us, Atmajaya Sutagara Pashudra Vinabandushu Raje Cha Vikale Nityam Viruddham Mamatam Jaho. In a moment, in just a moment, he realized, this is how you know someone is very spiritually advanced, incredible flexibility. Generally, if you're physically fit, then you're flexible. So if you're spiritually fit, then you're flexible. In other words, as soon as Krishna changes the program, you adjust seamlessly. No frustration, no hesitation, no bitterness, no disappointment. Krishna has another plan. Let's go with it. So, Jaya, he gave up his wife. Suta, he gave up his children. Gada, he gave up his house. Pashu, he gave up his animals. Dravina, he gave up his treasury. Bandushu, he gave up all of his friends and his association. Rajay, he gave up his whole kingdom. All of these things that are so difficult to give up, Parikshit realized, my time has come. Let's go. Let's face the next challenge. The next, not challenge, opportunity. And therefore he went, as we know, to the banks of the Ganga, Yamuna. Both are described. And he heard Bhagavatam for 7 days. And because he made such a beautiful sacrifice, he received the most beautiful gift, Srimad, the Bhagavatam, the beautiful narrations of the Supreme Lord. If you give something up for Krishna, Krishna will give you the best. And therefore, Sarva Vedanta Sadam Hi Shrimad Bhagavatam Ishyate. He received the most beautiful gift, the very sar, the very essence of everything you could ever want to know about anything. And that is contained within Bhagavatam. So he was good. 7 days, heard the Bhagavatam. Takshak is about to come, happy, satisfied, ready, totally embracing death as it appears before him. But as he was on his way to the bank to sit down to meditate in anticipation that Takshak would come, his mother came. And Uttara came and she said, I'm in deep lamentation. So Parikshit looked at her and said, why? She said, because you're going to leave. You're my son. For a mother to see her son leave the world before her, this is like unthinkable. And therefore she said, I'm completely bewildered. Parikshit looked at her and said, can't do anything about that. Then she looked at Uddhava and she said, then she looked at Parikshit and said, but there's one other reason I have lamentation. You heard so many things for the last 7 days. I didn't get an opportunity to hear. So Parikshit looked at her and said, can do something about that. She said, can? She said, can you tell me the essence of what you learn in 7 days? No problem. I can do that. And thus, Brihat Bhagavatamrita was born. This is Parikshit speaking to his mother, telling her the essence of what he learned in 7 days from Sukadeva Goswami. The Srimad Bhagavatam is already the Sarva Vedanta Sar, is already the Sar, the essence. And what Parikshit does is he even distills the essence of the essence. And therefore in one purport, Prabhupada says, one must study Brihat Bhagavatamrita. I'm sure if Prabhupada had more time, he would have translated. So Brihat Bhagavatamrita is very, very special. And as I said, it's split up into 2 stories. And the first story is a story of Narad. Narad, who's going through the universe asking the question, who got the most mercy from Krishna? This is amazing. The devotees who have actually received the mercy of Krishna, who have thus developed dainya and humility in their heart, they are looking for more mercy. They feel they need more mercy. And they look at everyone else and think, they are such recipients of mercy. Maybe there's something I can learn from them. So Narada, he wants to go through the universe to find out which devotee got the most mercy from Krishna. It's important. This is a very important question. Why? When you know the answer to this question, who got the most mercy, you can answer other questions. Because if you want to know who should I go to get mercy, then you'll have your answer. If you want to know how can I get mercy in my own life, then you'll have the answer. If you want to know how can I share mercy with others, then you'll have your answer. And therefore, this answer to the question, who got the most mercy from Krishna, is a very, very important question because it answers many subsequent questions. And so, Narad goes on a journey. Narada, one who gives Narayan to everyone. Narada. That Narayan is going around in all the humility, asking who got Krishna, who got the mercy. And so, a whole journey ensues. And on this journey, you actually learn something from every character. When you read between the lines and you also look at the purports and look at the verses, then you'll see that from each one of these characters, although they're the ones saying, I didn't get the mercy, you can see that actually each of them hold a secret of how to get mercy. And therefore this journey is very, very historic. So when Narada wanted to find out who got the most mercy from Krishna, then the first place he decided to go was to Prayag. He went to Prayag, Allahabad, at a very, very auspicious time of the year. He went during the month of Magh. So the month of Magh in Prayag, if the constellation is like that, means Kumbh Mela. And that's where all the great saintly personalities come and assemble. And therefore, I don't know if it was Kumbh Mela that year, but Narad definitely turned up there because he knew many, many eminent spiritual people would be there. And so Narad was walking around Prayag, and he was seeing so many different types of yogis, so many different types of spiritualists. But then he looked upon a Brahmana. The Brihad Bhagavatamrita just calls him the Prayag Brahmana. There were many Brahmanas in Prayag, but he was the Prayag Brahmana. And Naradji was just looking at him, and he was very simple, just a regular Brahmana. And what he did is he sat down very, very gracefully. He brought his Shaligram Shila out in front of him, and then he began engaging in very, very beautiful worship. He made some offerings to his Shaligram Shila, and then he started distributing that Mahaprasadam to all the individuals around him. And it's amazing. Narad was in Prayag where there were so many spiritualists, but he looked at this Brahmana. He looked at the simple devotion, the sincerity, the intent. And he looked at the Prayag Brahmana and he thought, I've got my answer. Clearly, this is the person who got the most mercy from Krishna, such an amazing devotee. Nasadayati mam yogo na sankhya dharma uddhava nasvadhyayas tapastyago yatha bhaktir mamor jita. The Bhagavatam tells us sadhana doesn't impress Krishna. Yoga doesn't impress. Jnana doesn't impress Krishna. Tapa doesn't impress Krishna. Tyaga, renunciation, doesn't impress Krishna. Yatha bhaktir mama orjita. But that person who has bhakti, devotion, they conquer my heart. So Narad looks at this Brahmana and he's like, you're the one. So he comes up to this Brahmana and he says, I'm looking for the one who got the most mercy from Krishna. I found my answer. Clearly it's you. And he says, no, it's not me. I got some mercy from Krishna, but I didn't qualify myself to receive the most mercy from Krishna. You see, I'm here today, and in a festival, anyone can be enthusiastic. But who's the person that does what I'm doing every single day? Here I am offering some items to my Shaligram, but there's someone who has far more than me, and they offer everything. Prana, artha, diya, vacha. Their life, their artha, their everything they give to Krishna. And there's a person, I feed a few others here with the Mahaprasadam remnants, but this person feeds the whole kingdom. Therefore, if you want to know who got the most mercy from Krishna, you have to go to the southern states, because there's a king, and that king, he is the one. He's the one that got the most mercy, because nityam navanavas tasya jayate paramotsava. The Brihad Bhagavatamrita says every single day in his kingdom is a festival. And so Narada leaves Prayag and he goes south and he goes to visit this king. And he comes into the palace, the assembly of this king, and he looks around and he's like, this is a festival going on here. Is it a special day? It's just another day. Every day is a festival. Jayate paramotsava. And so he's looking around thinking, this is amazing. It's like a party every day here. Everyone is so blissful. Everyone's engaged in hearing, glorifying. And the king is just engaging and facilitating everyone. And therefore Narada comes up to the king and he says, clearly, you are the one who got the most mercy from Krishna. And the king says, no, it wasn't me. You see, I'm a king, but I'm a small timer. I just look over some aspect of this land. There's someone who is overlooking a much bigger domain than me. You see, I am a king and I have a certain lifespan. But there is another person who worships Krishna and who has an incredibly long lifespan, a lifespan that goes beyond the yugas, a lifespan that goes beyond the divya yugas, a lifespan that lasts 71 divya yugas, a lifetime that lasts one manu, 1 day of time scale. And so like this, he's glorifying someone else. He's saying, I don't have much at my disposal. I have some treasury, but this personality has so many things. He has an elephant called Airavata. He has a celestial horse, Ucheshrava. He has a wish-fulfilling cow, Surabhi. He has Nandanandan gardens. He has Parijata flowers. He has so much. If you want to know who got the most mercy from Krishna, you have to go to him. Who do you have to go to? Indra. So the king is doing it every day, but he says, I got some mercy. Definitely there's a festival every day here, but if you want to know who got more, go to Indra. Because Indra is offering everything. So Narada goes to Amaravati, and there he sees Indra. Indra's sibling, Vamandev, is there. He's worshipping him. And then Amaravati, he sees that, my God, he was right. This is so much more opulent than even what the southern king had. And so Narada comes up to Indra and he says, don't cheat me. You got the most mercy from Krishna, right? And Indra says, no, 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 no. It was not me. Don't you know my history? I don't have such a good track record. I made offenses. I went to Braj. And there I tried to inundate. I tried to kill Krishna. How you say I've got the most mercy from Krishna? I tried to kill him. And not just, if that wasn't bad enough, one day I offended my own spiritual master. How can you get mercy if you offend your own spiritual master? One day I offended Brihaspati. And to make it worse, later on that day I found out that Vishvarupa, Brahmana, was offering oblations to the demons and they were becoming powerful. And therefore, in the impulse of that moment, I decided to kill Vishvarup. I killed a Brahmana. And then he said, it gets even worse. Because when I killed the Brahmana and then a demon was fashioned in order to kill me in retaliation, then in order to save myself, I went to a Vaishnav, the Dichi, and I asked him for his bones. I basically told him to terminate his life. Indra looks at Narad and he says, me, the most mercy, in one day I did Brahma Ninda, I did Guru Ninda, I did Brahma Hatya, and I did Vaishnava Parad. And you say, I got the most mercy from Krishna? You're mistaken. I'm a small player. You're glorifying me because I live for 71 Divya Yugas. There's someone who lives for a way longer span than that. You're glorifying me because I'm in charge of this aspect of the material domain. You don't know that there's someone who's in charge of everything. You're glorifying me because you think I got mercy from Krishna. Krishna connects with me. Krishna connected with this person to the extent that he came in his heart and he revealed all Vedic knowledge to him. If you want to know who got the most mercy from Krishna, you have to go to Brahma. So therefore, Indra is saying, yeah, I offered the best of what I have, but I make mistakes. If you want to know who got more mercy, then you have to go to Brahma. Because Brahma takes an incredible responsibility. Anyone who takes responsibility for Krishna gets Krishna's mercy. As the Prabhupada often used to quote, don't ask what your country can do for you, but what can you do for your country? And therefore, what service can you offer? What can you do to take Krishna's burden of anxiety? So Brahma does that. Brahma takes the anxiety of engineering and managing the material universe. And so Narad goes all the way to Brahma Loka. Brahma is worshipping the Mahapurush. Lakshmi Devi is also there. And in this way, Narad is like amazed by the whole scene. And he comes to Brahma and he says, I'm on a journey to find out who got the most mercy. And everyone keeps denying me. Please don't deny me. Clearly, you're the topmost person in the universe. You're in the highest planet. You must have got the most mercy from Krishna. And Brahma says, who sent you here? Indra. Brahma said, Indra sent you here? Narad said, yeah, Indra told me that he committed a big offense and therefore he's not the one who got the most mercy from Krishna. Brahma looks at Narad and he says, he committed an offense? My offense was even worse. Because at least in Indra's offense, all the Brajabasis came together for 7 days. Actually, Indra's offense brought great pleasure to Krishna. But my offense was that I stole the cowherd boys. I stole all the calves. I created a distance between Krishna and his devotees. That is a much more grievous offense. Brahma says to Narad, you don't read the Bhagavatam? I made mistakes. You haven't seen my mistakes in the Bhagavatam? I won't repeat them here again. And like this, Brahma is denying. Narad is saying, no, Tene Brahmarida Adikavaye. You were enlightened by Krishna from within. Brahma said, yes, but I got bewildered again. That's the power of the material energy. And so Brahma says, no, don't quote me Shastra. I'll quote you Shastra. Now you're looking for the most advanced devotee, the one who got the most mercy. Why don't you just look at Shastra? Shastra already gives you the answer. Why are you trying to go so many places? Narad says, what's the Shastra? What's the Praman? Nimnaganam yatha Ganga, Devanam achyuto yatha, Vaishnavanam yatha Shambhu, Purananam idam tatha. You don't know Shastra. Of all the rivers, Ganga is foremost. Of all the gods, Achyuta is foremost. Of all the Shastra, Purana is foremost, Bhagavatam. And of all Vaishnavas, Shambhu, Shiva, simple. It's there in Shastra. And if he tries to deny you, just say, he says it in the Bhagavatam. You can't deny it. So just go there. So Narad sets off and he goes to see Shiva. And he comes to Shiva and he quotes, don't deny me. You got the most mercy from Krishna. I need to come to the conclusion. I don't know how much time I've got left here. And Shiva says, no, you got it wrong. Krishna is encouraging. Bhagavatam is encouraging. It sees the good in everyone. But me, I'm not the one who got the... Just look at my qualities. I am absorbed. I'm in contact with the material energy. I'm overseeing the ignorance. I bless the wrong people. I make connections with the wrong people. And to top it all off, I was the one who began Mayavad. Mayavadam asatchastram prachanam bodhamuchyate mayeva nihitam devi Kalo Brahmana Murtina. In Kali Yuga, I come to this world as a Brahmana, as Shankaracharya, and I teach Mayavadam Asatchastram. How can the greatest devotee of Krishna, the one who got the most mercy, teaching Mayavad? Is not possible. He says, no. Narad says, no, but there was, I got the Shastra Praman. He says, no. The Shastra Praman is that there is a Bhakta Shiromani. You're looking for the one who got the most mercy, right? There is a Bhakta Shiromani, a crest jewel, the crest jewel of all devotees. This devotee is so powerful that the Lord came to save him in a unique form. He appeared in a unique way, and the Lord appeared in the most unique mood. This devotee is so pure. This devotee is so blessed by Krishna that when he was asked for what benediction, you know what benediction he asked for? Yadi dasyasi me kaman varamscha varadarshaba kamanam hridya samroham bhavatastu vrine varam. He says, this devotee, all he asked for when the Lord gave him any benediction, offered him any benediction, the benediction he asked for is that, please Lord, remove all the material desires from my heart. So it's no surprise that he's known as the Bhakta Shiromani. Therefore, if you want to know who got the most mercy, you have to go to Prahlad. Prahlad was Prahlado, Janako, Bhishmo, Balir, Vayashikir, Vayam. Shastra confirms he's one of the Mahajans. Great devotee, just completely reliant upon Krishna. So Narad goes there, Sutalaloka, and he meets Prahlad. He says, Prahlad, you got the most mercy from Krishna. Prahlad says, no. He says, no, but the Lord came in a unique form, in a unique way, in a unique mood, in a namrigam, namanusham, in a form never seen before. Yes, Prahlad said, but you see, all I do is sit around and meditate on Krishna. All I do is sit around and remember Krishna. Of course, you have to remember when they're all saying this, it's in deep humility. He says to Narad, I don't do anything practical for Krishna. Jivera svarupa hoy, Krishnera nitya das. The svarup of the jiva is to serve. But I didn't really do so much practical service. Therefore, if you want to find the greatest devotee who got the most mercy, you have to ask yourself, who did the most practical service? You have to ask yourself, who is the greatest servant? Because if you know who's the greatest servant, then you know who got the greatest mercy, because mercy is proportionate to service, because Jivera Swarupa Hoy, Krishnera Nitya Das. And therefore there's someone who's the emblem of service, to someone who just doesn't think about anything except service. And someone who, when they open their heart, their object of service is situated right there because they can't think of anyone else. Therefore, if you want to know who got the most mercy, you have to go to the greatest servant, who is Hanuman. And therefore, Hanuman is the one who got the most mercy. So then Narada goes to Kim Purusha Varsh and sees Hanuman. And there he glorifies Hanuman for his qualities, for his dedication, for his incredible endeavors to worship Ram and his unfailing service attitude. And Hanuman says, no, it's not me. Because, yes, I served Ram and Ram was with me for some time, but there was someone who the Lord stayed with for much longer than just me. No, Narad says, but you served the Lord so amazing. Hanuman said, if you want to know who's the greatest devotee of the Lord, it's not just the one who serves the Lord, but it's the one who serves the Lord so amazingly that the Lord feels the need to serve them back. And therefore, if you want to know who got the most mercy from Krishna, you have to go to these individuals, because the Lord became their charioteer. The Lord became their messenger. The Lord became their constant companion and wasn't just with them for some time, was with them for an extended time. If you want to know who got the most mercy from Krishna, then you have to go to the Pandavas. And therefore, they were much more intimate with Krishna. They were Krishna's friends. They were working together. They were serving together. And the Lord had great love for the Pandavas. When the Pandavas were in trouble, then the Lord would come and bail them out. And therefore the Lord was always there for them. So then Narada goes to meet the Pandavas. And the Pandavas said, we can't deny. We got great mercy. But what you have to understand is that there are more. There are more devotees that you have to go and see. Because we had a very formal relationship with Krishna. You see, why does Krishna come to the world? Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyutanam dharmasya tadatmanam srajamyaham. Why does Krishna come to this world? Dharma sanstha. Because he needs to establish dharma. He needs to annihilate the miscreants, and he needs to create spiritual resurgence in the world. So Krishna comes to this world for some work. And therefore, because we're kings, because we're Raja Rishis, then Krishna has to work with us. So therefore, Krishna was with us, we can't deny. Krishna did serve with us, we can't deny. But Krishna's relationship with us was more like a formal relationship to get something done. Our relationship with Krishna was to fulfill his cosmic manifesto, to create a better world. And therefore, yes, we were close to Krishna, but if you want to know who was closer to Krishna, it's not Krishna who was at work, it's Krishna who's at home. So therefore, if you want to know who's closer to Krishna, who got more mercy from Krishna, who's more dear to Krishna, then don't look at us. You have to look at those who are living with Krishna for his own life. You have to look at Krishna's own people. And therefore, the ones that got the most mercy from Krishna are the Yadus, the Yadavas. They were living with Krishna. Krishna was in Braj for some time, but then for most of his life, 96 years, he was with the Yadus. And therefore, if you want to know, you have to go to them. And when Narada went to the Yadus, then he realized, I'm running out of options here. There's not many more devotees here. And the Yadus accepted Narada's proposal, but they said, yes, yes, we all got mercy. We are Krishna's family. Incredible mercy. But there was one amongst us. There was one amongst us who was specially favored by Krishna. There was one amongst us who was trusted by Krishna. You see, it's one thing in your life to trust Krishna. It's one thing in your life to have faith in Krishna. But if you can turn around and say, Krishna has faith in me, Krishna has trust in me, then you can understand you have really conquered Krishna's heart. And therefore, there was one person that Krishna had great trust in, because whenever Krishna needed to get something done, then he would immediately call this person, and that person is Uddhava. And then Narada goes to Uddhava. And we know what Uddhava says. Because Uddhava says, no, it wasn't me. I thought I was the one. I thought I was very dear to Krishna. I thought Krishna and me, inseparable. But I saw that Krishna had an even more intimate relationship with certain individuals. And those individuals were crying for Krishna. And for most of my life, I was ignorant of this fact. But one day, Krishna sent me. He wanted to introduce me. He wanted to introduce me to Brajabhumi, to the Brajabasis, to Brajalila, to the Brajagopis, and ultimately to Braja Bhakti. And there I saw who got the most mercy from Krishna, because there I saw devotees who were crying for Krishna. And therefore, Uddhava had this transformation. So now as we begin on the journey in the next few days of discussing the life of Uddhava, you can understand why it's so important. Because the Brihat Bhagavatamrita tells us that all these individuals here are all incredible devotees. But Uddhava is considered superlative. Yet there are devotees who even Uddhava was flabbergasted to encounter. And that interaction, that transformation, and the ultimate aspiration that grew in his heart from that is very, very important to understand as we try to nurture our bhakti. And so in these days, we'll talk about these transformations, these realizations, and in this way, we'll make our way to see what happened with Uddhava, and finally, why Krishna, after teaching Uddhava all of this about Braj, decided to give him a final teaching just before Krishna left the world. Why was that even necessary? And that we will discuss. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Shri Brihat Bhagavatamrita ki jai. Thank you very much. Okay, so that was just a little introduction. So we have like 5 minutes if anyone would like to ask any questions, or if you have any comments. Or I think here.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. I really appreciated how for each of the devotees you offered a secret of mercy that they possess. And could you help me understand a little bit more? For Indra, you had mentioned offer the best.
Yeah. So in the Bhagavatam it's mentioned, Etava janma safalyam dehinam iha dehishu pranerarthe dhiya vacha shreya acharanam sada. The Bhagavatam says if you want to make your janma, your birth, safalyam, fruitful, then basically you have 4 things at your disposal: your prana, your efforts, your artha, your wealth, your dhiya, your intelligence, and your vacha, your words. So Indra was blessed with great opulence from the Lord. And it's explained, although we often equate Indra with someone who makes a lot of mistakes and seems to be overcome by lower nature and lower qualities and other such things, it's actually described that there is incredible worship going on, conducted, organized by Indra in Amaravati. And therefore it's explained that Indra is also using his opulence to glorify, to expand the glories of the Lord. And in that way is also considered to be very, very exalted. And so wealth is a kind of double-edged sword. It has the ability to be very, very intoxicating and very, very distracting, and it can be deviating. And so we see that lesson in the life of Indra, but we also see in the life of Indra that he's also using those things in different situations for the service of the Lord. So both aspects are there in Indra. So yes, just that point that Indra has many, many things, but he's also using those things for Krishna like that. Is that okay?
Hare Krishna. Thank you for that summary of Briya Bhagavatamrita. And I was wondering, could you talk about, does receiving Krishna's mercy mean having an easy life?
We talked about this last year, actually. I said there's 3 types of comfort. There's comfort in material life, there's comfort in spiritual life, and then there's comfort in Krishna consciousness. Does Krishna want a devotee to be comfortable or uncomfortable? It's a hard question to ask. Sometimes you wonder, like, my God. Krishna ultimately wants you to be happy. Krishna wants you to be comfortable. Krishna wants you to find peace, find happiness, find ecstasy. However, there are different types of comfort. One type of comfort is those who are comfortable in material life. So what does Krishna do? He sends discomfort to jolt them out of the so-called comfort of their spiritual life. Not because Krishna wants them to be uncomfortable, but because then Krishna wants to show that there is no comfort in material life. But then what could happen is we then come to spiritual life because we realize material life is uncomfortable. But then what could happen is we could become comfortable in spiritual life. We become comfortable with, that's not to say we shouldn't have a comfortable situation. Srila Prabhupada wanted us to have Varna ashram. He wanted you to be stable in Varna ashram, in security. But there's a danger that even in the comfort of all of those things, the intensity to really give your heart to Krishna may not come about. And therefore, the tendency of the devotee is then to remove themselves from the comfort of material life, but then to situate themselves in an easygoing, comfortable spiritual life. And therefore, Krishna will then send another uncomfortable situation. Not because Krishna wants you to be uncomfortable, but because Krishna wants you to raise your consciousness to Krishna consciousness. And then when you raise your consciousness to Krishna consciousness and find comfort in consciousness, not comfort in arrangement, not comfort in situation, not comfort in external things that seem to be going well, even if they look like they're spiritual, but comfortable in Krishna consciousness. That's the only comfort, because everything else around us is bound to break down by the laws of time. And therefore, does Krishna want you to have an easy life, a comfortable life, a happy life? Ultimately, yes. But Krishna wants you to find the easy, happy, comfortable life in Krishna consciousness. And to get you there, Krishna makes you uncomfortable. Krishna has many signs on his feet. And one of the signs on his feet is a lotus. And these signs are interpreted in different ways, but one of the interpretations is that Krishna's feet are like a lotus because the lotus is very soft. And that's where you can actually reside. Every other place where you try to reside in this world will ultimately become uncomfortable. It's like you sit on this chair and after some time you need to move because it's uncomfortable. So that's metaphorical, because any situation, even a so-called spiritual situation that you create, is ultimately uncomfortable. The only comfortable place is Krishna's lotus feet. That's why the acharyas sometimes say Krishna has a lotus on his feet to show us that that's the only comfortable place. So Prabhupada writes in the second canto purport, an easygoing life, an attainment of perfection in Krishna consciousness cannot go together. And then he writes in the next line, Krishna wants to see how painstaking the devotee is in devotional service. So yes, the answer to your question is yes and no. Is that okay? Okay, yes, a couple of hands. I'll just take these last two and then I'll stop.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, I was remembering how you often say Shastra is living. And towards the beginning of your lecture today, we heard about how Uddhava, he appears to have forgotten Krishna. But at the same time, you also gave the example of how Uddhava, when he got distracted by an apparent distraction, he was so sure it must be Krishna. So given that Shastra is living, and we see the example of Uddhava on one side due to his humility, having, let's say, apparently forgotten Krishna, but also being so determined and sure that if he is distracted, it must be Krishna. So what are we to learn from this?
Yeah. in the life of a devotee, it's said actually, Brihat Bhagavatamrita actually says this, that there are two things nourishing each other, dainya and prema. These are actually synonymous. There cannot be any prema without dainya, and there cannot be any genuine dainya without prema. Kaviraj Goswami says, Premera svabhava yaha premere sambandh, say mane Krishna mora nahi prema gandh. That the very svabhav of someone who has prema is that say mane, in their mind, Krishna mora nahi prema gandh. The very svabhav of someone who has prema is that in their mind they feel, I have no prema. In other words, dainya and prema have to nourish each other. And therefore, what you find in the life of a devotee, if you look at their ecstatic kind of outpourings, there's always a battle in their consciousness between dainya and prema. Sometimes they can't deny their prema. And at other times, they can't deny this side of them, which is extremely humble. And so sometimes this side is coming out and sometimes this side is coming out, and it's kind of like, which one are you? But it's actually, both of them are expressions of love in different ways. And therefore, you'll actually, it's clear, if someone is actually falling in love with Krishna, there's just an inevitable humility that even their rationality can't suppress. It's amazing. When you're actually humble, it's such a deep emotion within the heart that even your rationality can't suppress it. And therefore, they're just like, Bhaktivinoda Thakur just like, Amar Jivan, Sadepape Rata, Nahiko Punya Ralesha, my life is useless. There's nothing good in it. When I see others unhappy, I become happy when I see them. So like this is the great teaching of Shastra, that humility is dainya and prema nourish each other, and they're in constant battle for prominence. But it's not even a battle, because both of them are exhibitions of each other. Is that okay? Yes, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Maharaj, for so much inspiring words. Now, my question, feel free to refuse to answer my question, because my question is expressing a little impatience that you've given us a cliffhanger, which I feel, which I'm worried it's going to go on until Friday. and that cliffhanger is, why does Krishna give this final instruction to Uddhava? Could you give us a little hint that leads us to carry us through till Friday, when you will tell us that? But again, feel free to say no.
Shall I give a clue? I'll give a clue. Yes, we will discuss this more. It's good to be on the edge of a cliff sometimes. Means we stay alert. The clue is the 350th verse and the 351st verse of the Bhagavad Gita explain that the great souls, Mahatmanas tumam partha devim prakritim ashrita. The great souls are always worshipped. Satatam kirtayanto mam. They're always worshipping the Lord. They give their hearts. They're always singing, glorifying. So the very two middle verses of the Gita establish the goal. The very middle of the Bhagavad Gita establishes the goal. The very middle of the Bhagavatam establishes the goal, because the 10th canto is the goal of everything. But if you look at the 10th, 11th and 12th cantos, they basically make up half of the Bhagavatam. So in one sense, you could say the 10th canto is in the middle. So Bhakti is in the middle, in the Gita. Bhakti is in the middle, the highest Bhakti, in the middle of the Bhagavatam. Why not at the end? Why didn't Krishna just stop right there? Why didn't Krishna just end the conversation at chapter number 12 when he had already told Arjuna, Same bhakta me priyaha, these devotees are very dear to me, these devotees are dear to me. That's it, story done, job done. Why did Krishna speak another 6 chapters after speaking the 12th chapter? Why did Sukadev Goswami continue narrating the 11th and 12th cantos, which are about the subject of liberation, which are about the subject of annihilation, nirodha? You just talked about Krishna and Braj. Now you're going to talk about liberation. Now you're going to talk about annihilation. Why? So the very same answer that we'll use to answer those 2 questions may well give us the key to answer the question of why Krishna felt the need to still instruct Uddhava, even though he had introduced Uddhava to Brajabhumi, to the Brajabasis, to Braja Leela, to the Braja Gopis, and to Braja Bhakti. There was still another part. The jewel box, the final clue is, the jewel box had to be closed. And that is a clue which is in relation to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's description of the Bhagavad Gita as a jewel box. So, is that okay, Maharaj? I answered without answering. Thank you, Maharaj. Okay, I think because time is going on and we want to all be here for the next session, I'll end here and look forward to discussing more with you in coming days. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Yes.